Hello everyone, today our group will be presenting on supermarket pricing and its role in Australia's cost of living crisis. This presentation explores how supermarket pricing can balance consumer affordability with commercial sustainability, using an integrative thinking approach. I will begin by outlining the context and key issues before we move into our analysis. Part 1 Introduction. Australia is currently facing a cost of living crisis, with rising grocery price placing pressure on households. According to the grocery price has increased by more than 20% over the past 5 years, and food now takes up a larger share of household spending, especially for low-income families. At the same time, Australia's grocery retail market is highly concentrated. Coles and Woolworths together account for around two-thirds of the national market, which has increased public and regulatory attention on supermarket pricing practices. This project asked, how can supermarket pricing balance consumer affordability with consumption sustainability? We define this issue as a vexed problem and use an integrative thinking approach to examine it. Part 2 Background and Problem. Supermarkets play a central role in daily life because food is an essential good. The exit inquiry shows that raising prices have forced many households to change behavior, such as reducing fresh food purchases or spending more time comparing prices. The market is also highly concentrated, with limited competitive pressure on pricing, even though the exit didn't find widespread price growing. This structure gives major supermarkets significant influence on our pricing outcomes. At the same time, large supermarkets remain relatively perfect compared to global peers. This has created debate over whether high prices reflect necessary cost pressures or use of market power. Therefore, the problem is not simply high prices, but how market competition, pricing practices, and affordability interact. Part 3 approach. We use integrative thinking because supermarket pricing involves competing priorities. Consumers want affordability while supermarkets focus on efficiency and long-term sustainability. Instead of choosing one perspective, integrative thinking allows us to compare two opposing models and explore how these strengths can be combined. Our analysis follows 4 stages, beginning with articulating these opposing models. Building on what we've just discussed, Han Junzheng will now articulate the opposing models that shape supermarket pricing in Australia.
Thanks my teammate Yue Ningli. Next, I will introduce the opposing models. This process of two opposing ways of thinking about supermarket pricing and highlights the tension between them. Model 1 is consumer affordability and regulatory restraint, and Model 2 is commercial sustainability and market-led pricing. Model 1 focuses on consumer affordability. It recognizes that supermarket markets are often highly concentrated, which means the price may reflect market power rather than real competition. From this view, affordability is a social issue, not just a business outcome. Price controls, regulation, and greater price transparency are therefore seen as acceptable ways to reduce cost of living pressure, especially for essential goods where markets have limited choice. Research shows that transparency and regulatory oversight can influence pricing behavior and improve consumer outcomes. This model puts social well-life first, even if it reduces processing flexibility. Model 2 looks at supermarket pricing from the perspective of commercial sustainability. It sees pricing freedom and profit margins as important for running efficient distribution systems to deal with cost shocks and supporting long-term investment. From this view, pricing power is not seen as a problem by itself. Instead, it reflects how large firms operate at scale in modern markets. Research shows that higher markups have become an important way for firms to fund expansion, innovation, and resilience over time. Under this model, consumer benefits are expected to come indirectly rather than using direct price controls. The focus is on efficiency gains and long-term improvements that may eventually lead to better outcomes for consumers. The tension between these two models is not simple about low price versus high prices. Instead, it comes from different views on the role of pricing power. Model 1 sees pricing power as a risk in highly concentrated markets that needs to be controlled in order to protect consumers. Model 2, however, seeing price power as necessary for maintaining efficiency and supporting long-term investment. Measures such as price transparency can help consumers, but they can also limit how freely firms set prices in the market. Because of this, the two models each make sense on their own, but they cannot fully operate at the same time without creating conflict. Okay, my part is over. Next, welcome my teammate Rui Guo.
Next is Part 5, Examine the Models. These two models explain the supermarket pricing problem through very different parts of working. Model 1 is used by governments and regulators. It works by limiting supermarket pricing power in a market where only a few large firms dominate. This provides immediate help for consumers, improves price clarity, and rebuilds public confidence, especially during a cost of living crisis. However, the same regularity limits the product. Consumers also reduce pricing flexibility. This lowers motivation for supermarkets to invest in supply chain efficiency and often pushes cost pressure back onto suppliers, weakening long-term system strength. Model 2 is used by Coles, Woolworths, and investors. It allows prices to reflect business costs and treats profits as necessary for future investment and stable supply. This supports efficiency and long-term system performance. Yet this model accepts short-term consumer financial pressure and depends on slow efficiency improvements, which reduces public acceptance during periods of economic stress. In the end, Model 1 focuses on affordable prices, while Model 2 focuses on business sustainability. Each model works on its own terms, but neither can solve the problem on its own.
In exploring integrative solutions, our team developed two models that combine consumer affordability with commercial sustainability. The first is the efficiency-linked profitability model. It builds on market-led pricing by recognizing that supermarkets need profits to invest in logistics and technology. However, instead of allowing unrestricted pricing power, this model links accessible profits to demonstrate efficiency gains. Firms are rewarded for reducing costs and improving productivity, so consumer affordability improves through efficiency rather than direct price controls. The second is the dual pricing and social protection model. This model protects consumers by applying pricing constraints to essential goods, while allowing market pricing for non-essential products. It offers visible and immediate relief for cost of living pressure, while preserving profitability in competitive segments. To select between these models, we focused on two criteria: the depth of the impact on firm behavior and the long-term sustainability. The dual pricing model mainly manages outcomes and requires continuous regulation. In contrast, the efficiency-linked model fundamentally changes how firms earn profits and rely less on ongoing regulatory innovation. For these reasons, we selected the efficiency-linked profitability model as the most robust and generally integrative solution, capable of aligning business incentives with long-term consumer welfare.
Thanks my team member Rongyu Deng. Now I'll introduce the part 7. After selecting the efficiency-linked profitability model as the optimal integrated solution, we need to answer a key question: is this model feasible in real practice? Can it effectively address the supermarket pricing problems identified in the ACCC report? The following section will evaluate this model. The efficiency-linked profitability model cannot be implemented all at once. It needs to be developed step by step. In the short term, the model focuses on building clear and transparent efficiency benchmarks. At present, the two major supermarket chains control around 2/3 of the market. Setting up a third-party audited efficiency verification system can help improve accountability in pricing behavior. In the medium to long term, studies point out that profit growth in modern firms often depends on higher markups. This model aims to use policy incentives to change the way supermarkets make profits. The focus shifts from price increases to efficiency improvements. As a result, profit growth becomes more closely linked to technology investment in the supply chain. The implementation of this model depends on support from both technology and regulation. On the technical side, supermarkets need relatively well-developed logistics and inventory management systems. These systems are required to provide cost and efficiency data that's traceable. On the regulatory side, the model requires government support based on recommendations from the ACCC. An independent monitoring group should be established to verify whether the reported efficiency gains of the firms are generally passed on to consumers. This helps ensure that efficiency claims are not simply used to hide price increases. We also recognize that there are potential risks during the implementation of the model. Firms may overstate their operational efficiency by squeezing supplier profit margins. To address this risk, the model introduces a multi-stakeholder evaluation approach. This means that efficiency improvements should not come at the expense of suppliers. The audit process will include feedback from suppliers to ensure fairness across the entire supply chain. In terms of performance evaluation, one of the key indicators of this model is price stability in the basic grocery basket. When supermarket profit growth increases in proportion to their investment in logistics optimization and digital transformation, a balance is achieved. This balance supports business sustainability while also protecting consumer affordability. My part is over. Next, my team member Shuang Li will introduce more.
Thanks to my teammate Yujia Liu. Now let me introduce the solution part. Based on the integrative thinking process, our optimal solution is the efficiency-linked profitability model. This model directly addresses the core tension identified early between consumer affordability and supermarket commercial sustainability. Rather than relying on strict price controls or unrestricted marketing pricing, the model links acceptable profit growth to demonstrate efficiency improvements, such as logistic optimization, supply chain digitalization, and productivity-enhancing investment. Supermarkets retain pricing flexibility, but profits are generated through efficiency gains rather than price increases alone. This approach integrates the strengths of both opposing models while avoiding their key limitations. In practice, the model requires transparent efficiency benchmarks and third-party auditing in the short term, with safeguards to ensure efficiency improvements are not achieved at the expense of suppliers. And finally, let me make a conclusion for our today's presentation. In Australia, supermarket pricing represents a complex wicked problem shaped by rising cost of living pressures, high market concentration, and competing stakeholder interests. Simple market-led or regulatory solutions alone are sufficient to address these interconnected problems. And by applying the integrative thinking framework, this project articulated and examined two opposing pricing models before exploring integrated alternatives. The efficiency-linked profitability model emerged as the most robust solution, as it aligns commercial sustainability with consumer affordability by redefining how profits are generated. More broadly, this solution demonstrates how integrative thinking allows decision makers to move beyond trade-offs and develop realistic, sustainable responses to complex economic and social problems. And that's all for our presentation. Thanks for your listening.